Welcome to the Micky and Woody Show with me, Paul Wood, and the rugby league legend, Micky Higham. Don't forget, if you don't hear it here, it's not worth knowing. In association with Get a Tax Rebate, 1895 Sports, Mesa Vienna Aesthetics, CDX Security. Okay guys, welcome to the Micky and Woody Show. We're on episode number 9. Micky, I can't believe it, mate. We set off 12 weeks ago, come up with an idea, and we're 9 episodes in, so fantastic. What have you been up to this week, mate? Because I want to know what you've been up to, because I keep asking you, will you do this, will you do that for the show, and you keep saying you're busy and not doing it, so I want to know what you've been up to.
Just been snowed under with COVID-19. I'm on about my 12th box set this week, so I've been really busy. Regarding my gym, I was over some good news at the weekend. You can go to a pub and get pissed with all your mates, but you can't go and train your body and train your mind and feel good. So yeah, kind of just scratching my head a little bit this week, thinking you can go and kiss and hug and fight in a pub, but can't get your heart rate going and feel good about yourself. So yeah, a bit of a frustrating week regarding try fitness at the gym, but it's given me an extra few hours to plough a bit of work into our Micky and Woody Show, because I'm carrying this show at the moment, Woody pal. It's
Well, it would be handy if you replied to your text messages, but you see them on WhatsApp and there's no reply. But I ttell you what,
drives you mad that when you see blue ticks and you don't get back to you. It drives Woody mad, that.
But for me this week, I'm buzzing because I've ordered a new Hoover yesterday, and you're getting old when you've ordered a new Hoover and you're buzzing. So how times have changed there. I'm going to be coming home tomorrow. It's true that you turn into your parents. I'm going to be coming home tomorrow and telling kids, move your feet, don't sit there, I've just hoovered there. That's what my day is going to consist of tomorrow. So anyway, bring our guests in, Micky.
Well, let's say you've just mentioned like parents, obviously a bit of a family affair tonight. 2 special guests again, uncle and nephew, 2 Warrington legends. One's finished playing, one's still playing, still top of his game. 2 gents we really respect. A lot of time for them both, know them really well. 2 great fellas. So it's Paul Cullen and Mike Cooper. Thanks for coming on the show, guys. Really. I always say thanks for giving me your time, but I think everybody's got quite a bit of time at the moment. But nevertheless, thanks for coming on, and hopefully we'll have a really good chat and have some good laughs.
You're welcome, mate. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Looking forward to the next hour.
Well, tell your face, Croops, because tell your face, mate. That's it. Little smile there.
Yeah, that's been going on for a long time. And you start smiling, you.
We'll start with you, Cull, first, because obviously you're Warrington stalwart. It's a bit similar stats to myself, really. I think I was 13 games before I took over you in the all-time appearances, and I just missed out. Yeah, no, sorry, 11 games. 11 games it was. 350 games you played, and you scored 56 tries for Warrington. 339, and I scored 50. So...
Well, you now know, Woody, why I kept dropping you for no reason.
That's it.
That's it. I was watching clock all the time, Woody. He's not going to get me.
But obviously, known as mate, you've got a lot of respect, not just at Warrington, but throughout rugby league. I think like the manner that you played the game. You don't get the nickname Psycho when you're calm, cool, and collective, do you? But just tell us how you got into your rugby league, and tell us how you got signed for Warrington Wolves.
Well, it was fitness, Woody. I was a fitness fanatic as a kid. Loved all sports. Really enjoyed football. And didn't play rugby till I was about 15, 16. My last year at senior school, and I went to Bottler Grammar. And there was no rugby league there. It was quite a snobby school in that way in the day. And it was either rugby union or athletics and football. So I kind of chose athletics and football. And only when we had a teacher that came to the school, Mr. Kilshaw, who's a player himself, played at Crossfields, who started a team in me last year. And we joined, and I absolutely loved it. And from there, I joined Crossfields, and 12 months later, I signed for Warrington. But the backstory is that I was an absolute fitness fanatic as a kid, and really appreciated the skills of rugby league players. I didn't have that many. I was there because I was as fit, if not fitter, than anyone else, and it just kind of worked for me, and I really enjoyed it. And that's how I got into rugby league.
So was it not sort of a childhood dream to play for Warrington? Was it not an aspiration as a young lad?
I didn't even get there, Woody. I was a massive Warrington fan. That was dad and lad time. That was an integral part of my childhood. You know, me and my dad would travel away. We'd actually meet with all my dad's mates at the Old Ball, which is right near the Halliwell Jones. That's that derelict corner near the Lord Rodney. There used to be a pub there called the Old Ball. We'd meet there every Sunday with all my dad's friends, and we'd go to Wilderspool. We'd move on to Wilderspool, or we'd travel all over the north of England to watch Warrington play. And I never thought at that point that A, I'd be good enough, or B, that I could actually do it. It was the landlord of that pub was a guy called Kenny Gill, a brilliant standoff, played for Salford and Widnes, Great Britain, and a fitness fanatic. And through the connection with my dad, he used to go down as a 14, 15-year-old kid and train with Kenny Gill. And we'd train all over Warrington. And I didn't realise at the time, I was kind of super fit and didn't realise I just enjoyed training. And when I started to play rugby at school and started to play rugby at Crossfields, you then begin to notice the difference, and you go, oh, God, right, that's why I've been doing all that. I didn't really realise why I'd been doing it. It wasn't that for that specific reason. But I was very, very fortunate. I was being basically personally coached by a Great Britain standoff, almost by default, because he's a fitness fanatic and I just tagged along and liked training. And I learned so much from Kenny Gill. So when you're doing the real tough stuff, I mean, playing amateur rugby league back in the late 70s was scary. I mean, you're playing open age rugby in northwest counties when you're 16 years of age. There was no such thing then as scholarships or academies at professional level. You know, at 16, 17, you were playing against grown men. And in that northwest counties, the number one rule was don't get caught. Do not get tackled, because once they've got you, they will literally do anything they want to you. So you learn, you got quick, you got agile, and you got out the way, because when they landed, you knew about it.
Just when you moved on to, obviously when you signed for and started playing, you played for the first team. I can't think of players off the top of my head, but you played with some real characters then back in the early 80s. It was at 1980, was it? You signed and debuted in.
1980, yeah, 1980.
Was there some characters that kind of took you under your wing then?
Mick, it was brutal, and I absolutely loved it. You know, one of my boyhood heroes, one of the best players that's ever played for Warrington, was a centre called John Bevan. Dual international, rugby league and rugby union, British line in both codes. Phenomenal centre. I've got a picture somewhere of I'm sat in the dressing room at Wilderspool, ready to go out, and I'm sat next to John Bevan, and I don't have Mike's the same. I know he is. There's no pictures, there's no medals. Well, Mike's got some. I didn't get any, but you know what I mean. There's nothing in the house. But tucked away somewhere, I've got a picture of John Bevan. And for all the things that critics want to say about you or people want to take off you, no one will ever take that off me. As a kid growing up, John Bevan was arguably the best centre in the world, in my opinion. And at 17 years of age, I'm sat in that old wooden stand at Wilderspool. He's playing right wing and I'm playing right centre. And no one will ever take that off you. It was that kind of dressing room. I walked in, a bit lively, a bit full of myself. Always been confident. I was confident because I was fit. I knew I had an edge somewhere. I didn't quite know what it was. And I remember walking into the Billy Benyon rang one night and wanted to sign. I went down and we did it practically there and then. And I've walked with my kit bag. I basically ran to training from Orford to Wilderspool, and I've walked in the first team dressing room, and they're all there: Ken Kelly, Bob Eccles, John Bevan, Tommy Martin. It was a very, very good Warrington side at the time, and Steve Esford is one of the most famous players that's ever played for Warrington. I think Brazy's the only one to ever took his all-time point-scoring record off him. And I've kind of walked in and went, "Hi guys, my name's Paul Cullen, and I've come to training. Billy Benyon's just told me to turn up," and it just went quiet. And everyone's kind of looked round, and I'm stood in the middle of the first team dressing room, like with a little plastic bag in my hand, waiting for someone to say something. And Steve Esford said, "Really? Why don't you fuck off down there with the rest of the stiffs, and we'll invite you in here?" And I went, "Oh," absolutely took my legs off. So with that, I had to turn round and walk to the other end. You remember that other part of the old wooden stand at Wilderspool? The dungeon in the corner that used to be the away team dressing room. I had to walk 50 yards all the way down there with my tail between my legs and go and get changed with the reserves. And I went, "Oh, geez, that's brutal." I love it because you just don't get missed here. Massive lesson, You got to be humble. You've got to work your way in somewhere. Fantastic lesson.
Yeah, you can't. I remember when I first when I first went to St Helens, it was still pretty similar. Then you kind of knew your place, didn't you? I know the game's changed and society is everything, but even back then in the 2000, you still earn your stripes, didn't you? Before you got the respect of your. I walked into a dressing room with Tommy Martin, Kevin Iro, Sonny Nicol, Chris Joynt, Sculthorpe. They were superstars, weren't they? And it's and it was still that little edge then. You cannot.
You sit where you get told to sit. If that dressing room's numbered 1 to 13 and 2 subs as it was in the day, and you walk up and sit in number 3, number 3 tells you to get out the way because it's his seat. And if you get on the bus to an away game and you sit in someone's seat, you've got to earn the right to get in there. Now, it sounds silly, it sounds trivial, but you didn't have to get put in your place if you stepped out of line. It was a great learning curve.
You know what? You'll know him very well. It was Andy Braychek, and when he was a kid, I used to pick him up for training at St Helens because he was only a kid. Ian Millward had given him some time to train with the first team. And we used to have our dinner up at Knowsley Road where they used to run out of the old dressing rooms at Knowsley Road, behind the school.
Yes.
We used to have our food in the corporate up there at dinner time, and I remember his second session, and you had your dinner tables, but we had a row where your internationals and your captain were up top table, and you were kind of your Aussies and your seasoned first team, and then you had us, young lads coming through Mike Bennett, myself, John Stankovic. Fucking Andy Braychek gets his food. He walks straight past our table, straight past the Aussies table. He went, "All right, Longy, how are you, pal?" We're all like, "You can't fucking say that." Basil went, "Andy, just get your stuff, man. Eat over it." And he went, "No worries, mate."
It's funny.
Basil were like, "I'm off and honestly because that's how he were."
He was a confident kid, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. I don't know whether you know, Cole, but it's still a legendary tale and it's still told to today. But I always remember the first year that Andy Braychek signed for Warrington. Cole brought him in, and we went to Club La Shiznit, or Club La Santa as it's famously known. And we had a night out. We had one designated night out where we all went out as a team, and we'd all had a few beers, and Cole sat round the table with Mark Hilton. And he was having a pretty serious conversation about something. And Andy Braychek went up to Cullen and said, "All right, Cole, do you want a drink?" And Cole, obviously coming from that background, went, "Andy, do us a favour, mate. Fuck off for 5 minutes." And Andy did exactly the same thing. Tail between his legs and went, "I've just been told to get the fuck out of here." And it's still told to this day. But it's interesting because it doesn't really go on that sort of atmosphere these days. And it was funny because Warrington interviewed Tawera Nico last week, and they was talking about his time at Warrington. and it got brought up the fact that Tuera Nico slapped me in Club La Santa for being cocky. Yeah,
Right.
I told Fitzy this story before he interviewed him. Like he was asking me what was Tuera like. I said he's a great bloke, very as tough as they come. I said, in fact, he's that tough. He slapped me for being cocky, and but that was the mentality of the old school player. You know, you stepped out of line, you got a slap. And
it'd have been normalised, that would it? Where it'd be outrageous today, that would be indifferent. People wouldn't have even blinked. They'd have just gone, right, well, you probably deserved it in the first place, you know.
Yeah, and I did. One I did because I was cocky. And but secondly, I appreciate that because it made me reflect on my own behaviour and you know what you need to do to be in you know, the first team. You know, you can't act like an academy player when you step up into the first team. Just moving on to you, Coops, there, what was it like as a young lad to have a family member, to have such a big reputation in Warrington, and I suppose to go into a Warrington environment and fill his boots?
But to be honest with you, as Paul mentioned, the family, you know, we don't, although we are like Mr. you know, we're all Warrington Wolves family, and there's no primrose and blue in the house. You'd expect banners and posters and anything like that. There's not, just a normal family. So it wasn't something I was really aware of until maybe 11, 12 and whatever else. But, you know, of course, proper Northwest, you know, family and roast dinners at my nana's on a Sunday, and there's 35 plates with foil over all your name on, and all the blokes sit in the living room and we talk about rugby, all the women would sit in the kitchen and talk about what was going on in the families. And it was that then that I started picking up on it. And then obviously I went to a few games and watched Paul play, and it just sort of went from there, and you just sort of started becoming a fan. But probably wasn't really aware of what was going on in Paul's career or anything, because in the family we don't really celebrate the wrong way, but it's not like, you know, me and Paul personally would rather not talk about, as we all know as players, you want to come home and just talk about everyone else is doing, don't you? Not about what you're doing. So I wasn't really aware of it really until, you know, probably I started going to the scholarship in the academy and then into the first team.
And Cullen gave you your first team chance. He brought you through as a young lad. I used to watch you in academy as a first teamer. He was a promising young lad. So you was there on merit. Wasn't there because you was a family member. And Cullen give you that chance. What was it like to work with Cullen in that respect?
Yeah, it's amazing, and also, you know, a little bit strange at first, and you know, it's not easy when it's a family member. I'm sure same for Paul as well. And you know, Paul said to me recently that he you know, sent me a message on testimonial saying he gave me more of a harder time than anybody else for that reason, and I wasn't aware of that. You know, I wasn't aware of that at all, and it was very much you know, uncle away from the field and coach. You know, when we stepped into training and we did it the right way. But yeah, that debut was you know, an unbelievable experience, but a frightening experience as well. I think at that time we were that down on numbers, it was either going to be me or Bobby Moore that was going to get a run. So I got a run, but and of course it's that famous game that's on YouTube, isn't it?
That's the one. I'll just be between. Was it Castleford away when? Is that when you got your nose? Is that when you got your nose bent? That Woody, and that's 2000.
Yeah, well, I don't know what was more embarrassing, the scoreline or the fact that I got levered off a scrum half when I was playing a foot.
Just imagine how that feels, being on the bench about to come on, and our two toughest players had just been belted, and I have to come on.
I know, but I always say I got held back by about 5 or 6 players. But the thing is as well, though, Coops, like you're saying, you know, Cull give you an harder time because he was, you know, probably whether it was because he was a family member or not, but nobody would think that you two were related to that environment. Do you know what I mean? No one would say, "Oh, that's uncle and nephew," because didn't really. He wasn't probably like, you know. You won't, I don't know how would I put it. You won't say that you was close, you was knitted. Do you know what I mean? In that environment.
Yeah.
It was intentional. It was intentional, Mike. We've had that conversation only recently, haven't we?
Yeah.
It was intentional. I remember when Mike was coming through, and we, as a club, we'd done a huge amount of work to build that age group. So it was Mike's age group, Matty Blythe, and I think Steve Pickersgill, the kind of school year before. We were doing a huge amount of work to try and recreate an academy structure coming through Warrington. And we'd hear it all the time that the DNA wasn't quite right within Warrington. The postcode isn't good. There's not enough Warringtonians coming through. And it's utter nonsense. It's absolute garbage. You just got to provide a channel, provide a facility, they'll come through. I'm not the most skillful player that's ever played for Warrington by a million miles, not the fastest, not the biggest, etc. But someone gave me a chance and I took it and I played 350 games. And I remember when Mike was coming through, and I understand that as Warringtonians, we'll get criticised and insulted and abused from the other side of the safety fence more than anyone else. I get it because I've lived it, I've felt it, I've seen it. And I remember pulling a meeting in with Paul Derbyshire, with God love him, with Gary Chambers, Dave Elliott, Chris Rodd, all those kind of ex-players that we wanted in that backroom staff at Warrington, and that was just an opportunity for ex-players to come through. Whether they did or they didn't was going to be down to their drive and their ability. But I remember it was a group that mattered. They were knowledgeable, they were intelligent, and they cared, and that was really important to me. But I remember bringing a meeting and going, we know what's coming here. We know what's coming with Mike Cooper. People will find out at some point that we're related. Don't let anyone ever say, if he comes through, he's come through because he's related to me. Work him harder. If when you're giving the kit bag out, I did it with Bobby Moore as well. You know, you probably never worked out why, Mike, when everyone else got 3 pair of socks and shorts and you got 1, and we made them odd. You know, we were just awkward and we did it on purpose. I remember saying to Darbs, just give it to him. He's got to be fitter and tougher and stronger than anyone else because the crowd at some point are going to turn on him. Whether that's the Warrington crowd or the opposition crowd, it's irrelevant. Someone's going to get an angle because we all know, guys, whatever your ism is, whatever that thing is that you don't like or someone's got hold of you, they will take it and twist it and they'll try and do you with it. We went, right, we're not going to allow anyone to do that. Make it as hard for him as he possibly can. If he comes through, it's a bonus. If he doesn't, well, he's not going to come through. But it won't be. He's not going to come through because we're related. And you probably look back on your career now, Mike, and things might ping into your mind, symbol like that. Oh, Christ, how did I only get 1 pair of socks when everyone else got 3? Well, that's Darbs and Chambo saying to Bobby Moore, don't let anyone think Coopsy's getting favoured. Take kit off him that he doesn't even know about, etc. Make him do extras, bring him in. You know, if he's going to come through, he's going to come through on his own merit. And to your credit, whatever you've achieved, Mike, whatever amount of games you've played, whatever cups you've won, the quality of work you did in Australia, that's yours. It's not mine. All you got was a shot that you earned. The rest is all yours, and no one can ever take it off you.
Yeah, well, I was never aware of that with Bobby or the kit or anything. And honestly, I never realised. But I remember with Darbs, you know, when we were running at Lindam, one of the sessions we used to do at Lindam, and him screaming at me in my face. It's like military style. But like we were saying earlier on about the way it is around the dressing rooms, you can't do it now. But it was almost like being in the military. You know, I just get screaming at my face. I remember going, my back's gone or whatever. Of course, you're not fit. When at 16, 17, I'm still a kid. You know, I'm still, you know, just left school only 2 months earlier, and I'm training for the first team. You know, and I know you don't really get your man strength, do you, till your mid-20s, really. You know, and I remember thinking, oh, my back's this, and just getting screamed in the face. But yeah, I wasn't aware only until we had that conversation really that it was making it a bit harder for me.
It's one of them, Mike. So, as we know, and I know, Micky and Woody have done an awful lot of work in education now and sports science, and sometimes the game doesn't follow the plan because whilst you're absolutely right there, at 16, 17 years of age, you're not ready to take on 23, 24-year-old men who are 3 stone heavier. Yeah. But you are.
Yeah.
You know, the season doesn't wait for you to get fit. It doesn't wait for you to mature. It doesn't wait for you to grow up. You're playing next week. Yeah. When I'm looking at that roster and go, well, I think Chris Lightwell's not quite right this week, or Paul Wood's not fit, Danny Lima, Adrian Morley, mate, getting ready, he's going in. And that's it. So you're putting that pressure down your line to Darbs and to Chambo and to Dave Elliott and to Chris Rodd. They've all been there and done it. And, you know, Gary Chambers played prop forward at mate, he's 5 foot. What is he? 5'9", 5'10", and 13 stone. It'd be like, you know, he's played 300 games and he knows you just got to get hardened and got to get ready because no one's going to wait for that perfect situation when you're 26 and coming into your peak and everything's going to go right for you, you know. Yeah. So it was interesting. We'd have debriefs at the end of the game or the end of a week, and we'd go through it, and it would come up and go, you know, how's Coops going? He's going, oh mate, we're looking give it him this week. Well, you know, let's not go overboard. We don't want him snapping. We just want him under pressure. We want him in a state of mind that he can just keep fighting. He'll either give up or he'll fight. The instincts are he'll keep fighting.
Not SAS, it's tough enough for 6 years.
Very join the Marine. I was just going to say, you'll be very joint SAS now. I used to remember him coming in. Remember Coops coming in changing room saying, I'm going to tell him my nan and granddad about him.
If you don't like telling me old man, mate, wouldn't you? You'd have got some change there, yeah.
Just digressing a little bit there, back to your career there, Cole. We've got to mention it because it's one of the most symbolic moments in English rugby league, really. But the Andy Goodway moment, we touched on it that, you know, your nickname is Psycho. I've not a clue where that nickname's come from. But knowing you, Paul, you're never come across as a psycho. But we'll touch on the Andy Goodway and the rivalry that created between you two. Can you just explain to us what happened during that game?
Well, what happened in the game was you know, just the tip of the iceberg. It was, as is most things, there's always a narrative, there's a backstory. And again, Woody, I'd never need anyone to criticise me or tell me that I'm not the biggest, the best, or the fastest, because I've got a reasonable ability to work it out for myself. So you just got to find, as we all know, we've all been through it ourselves. You got to find what you're good at, what you can compete with. You got to find out what you can't do as well. So I worked out very, very early on. I'm not as fast as Phil Ford. I'm not as big as Bob Eccles, and I'm not as talented as Tommy Martin, senior or junior. So you've got to work out how am I going to survive in this environment. So if you go back to that, where my introduction to the game came through just being a fitness fanatic that happened to then fall into the rugby league path. That when you're training with someone like Kenny Gill, who is training you're just doing his training sessions and tagging along, and you have to respect the privilege that 3 or 4 nights a week, and I didn't really get it at the time, you're being trained by one of the fittest and best halfbacks that's ever played for the country. You know, it's just by sheer chance he happened to run a pub in Warrington that we met at to go and watch Warrington. You know, people think you make these stories up at times. You can't make that nonsense up, can you? You know, it just landed. But, you know, if you weren't going to train and you weren't going to graft, it'd afflict you because he did it with a loads of young lads. If you were going to train, you had to be there on time and ready, and you had to stay the course, even when you'd been sick, even when you'd done your ankle, even when something had gone wrong. If you bailed out, you never went back. So you're learning some real formidable lessons. So being fit and earning respect was ingrained in me almost by default. Now, I used to train with my dad, and my dad was very, very similar. Again, it's not by design. But if he came, I used to think that it was normal for blokes to come home from work after doing, 8 or 9, 10 hours graft, grab your training kit down the local field and just run 400s, because that's what my dad did. And I went with him. And I used to think that was normal. It's only in later life you go, God, that was a bit intense there for a young kid. But, I just went and joined in with him. So you're in a frame of mind that at that point you don't even really know that you're in. But I wanted to be fit and I wanted respect. Again, I knew I wasn't as good as Phil Ford or Mark Foster. Mark, he's unbelievably quick. Certainly was in the day. Ridiculously quick. Genetically predisposed to being able to run 100 metres in less than in 10 seconds flat for a man who's 16 stone. And when you're running alongside him, you're kind of working out that it's not negative to think that I can't beat him in this first 100. but I've got to get him on the second or the third because that's when I'll come into my own. So being fit and earning respect from that was the way I was going to get in a team and stay in a team. If that means that you have to be a little bit rough and tough around the edges and make yourself known, well, so be it. And I remember coming off at Wilderspool one day. I'm 17 years of age, and I'm coming off after. So it was Friday night football, and I've looked up, and I can just see the old man. I know where he stands, and and I think I've done all right. I'm playing a sound as a standoff, and I think I've done all right. And I come off, and I just give him a little look like that, and he's just kind of stared straight through me. We've got home, and I went, how do you think I went? He went, man, I didn't even know you played. I went, oh, boom. Didn't even notice you played. I went, right, you'll notice next week. Next week, it's bang, smash. So I know I'm not going to set up 5 tries or, do a Phil Ford and dance around 3 people or a Ken Kelly create the game plan. I didn't have it in my, within my talent set. But I knew I could do some damage. So next week when you go, he went, yeah, I noticed you today. Or someone's on the floor somewhere. And that kind of thing sticks. You've got to get in the team and you've got to stay in the team and you've got to play to the best of your abilities. Runs into, Woody, long way around, runs into that I prided myself on my fitness and my intensity. And I knew I wasn't world class. I knew deep down around me, and I kind of misplaced it. I wasn't an international rugby league player. Because to be it, you've got to be as good as Ronnie Dwayne, your teammate at the time from Warrington, who snapped his cruciates. He'd have been the best centre in England, could have been in the world if he hadn't done his knees in. And there were special talents. And I got picked and took into the Great Britain squad. I could not believe it. So this is Malcolm Riley's Great Britain. Arguably the best international coach that we've ever had. The Great Britain team in the day is Ellery Hanley, Andy Gregory, Joe Lydon, it's Sean Edwards. The list is endless of internationals that would stand the test of time. They'd be world class at any era, in any age. And we're training at the old Robin Park in Wigan, which is where the new stadium is. And I've walked in, and as you'll know, guys, and you've all played international level, and you come back to your club and you've got the red, white and blue bag. You're in the Great Britain club. And there's then that little Great Britain gangster handshake that you only get when you play for the British Lions. And I'm kind of looking, going, well, I can't walk in with my Great Britain bag. I've got a plastic one from Co-op. So I've turned up there, and I'm in the dressing room. I can't believe it. And we've walked in, and there's Ellery, and there's Andy, and there's Joe. And Andy Goodway just completely and utterly blanked me. I don't even know whether he knew what he was doing. He's completely and utterly ignored me and spoke to the bloke that side and spoke to the bloke that side. And I'm stood in the middle going, oh, got that. To this day, I've never had a conversation with Andy Goodway. I don't know. I don't like him. He doesn't like me, I think. We've never had a conversation. But it was about, right, so you don't recognise me, you don't know me. And that's not arrogant. I'm not an arrogant person. I went, right, Christ, I'll have to do something about this. You've not noticed me. You've not even said hello, get fucked, or get out my way, or sit down, or welcome in. Literally blank me. We then trained together for 3 months. Because, when the squad goes from 40 to 30, you do your off-season work in the day. Malcolm Riley's the Great Britain coach, Phil Ladd is the conditioner, and we're training 2 or 3 times a week on top of your club stuff at Robin Park. Never spoke to me in the entire time. So I'm just going, right, I'll go harder, I'll go faster, I'll go harder. We're doing 400s, we're doing 3s, we're doing 2s. I'm in my element, I'm all right here. As you know, in the day, it builds up to that lovely pre-season friendly Warrington versus Wigan in the Locker Cup. And Wigan have fielded 15 internationals, and Warrington, have fielded the best that we've got. And Andy Goodway's playing left second row. I'm playing centre, and I've swapped over during the game. I've said to Tony Barrow, the coach at the time, Tony, swap us over. I want to go up against Andy Goodway, and I've just caught him, and I've caught him, and I've just let him know that if you didn't know who I was before, well, now you do. I'm doing nothing here that we've not all done at some point. You're just trying to make your mark in the game. Well, Andy Goodway's world class. You know, he's a world class player. Andy didn't like it. 3 months later, we're now playing in that game. And as you see, I've got up and passed the ball, and he's done to me exactly what I did to him in that pre-season game. He's caught me with an absolute beauty. You know, I don't dislike the guy. We've never had a conversation. I've done him, and he's done me back. But as he's done me, and I'm just lying there, I just kind of saw it coming, that shot, that big swinging arm, and just about rolled it a little. But he's done a bit of damage. I can feel it. As I come back, he comes back, jumps on my hand, stands on me, gives me a mouthful and runs off. And I went, bang, off you go. Now, you're just then subconsciously clicking into that. It's not fight or flight, it's you're having it mode. You just can't put up with that kind of nonsense. If I'd have backed down then, I'd have never lifted my head again. Now, we're in the bar after the match. Just walked in, as we always do, get your food, go to the bar, and Malcolm Riley comes up next to me. And this is Malcolm Riley, one of the hardest men that's ever played the game. You know, it literally took everyone on in the English leagues in his day, took them all on in Australia, and he walked up, he went, mate, you cannot behave like that. That's ridiculous. You're out of control. And the following day, my letter lands, and I'm out of the squad. And there's the Andy Goodway story. That's it, really.
I always remember as well, Cullen, it stuck with you, that it's a famous story in rugby league, that, and everybody, even kids who weren't even born in that year, you know, have seen that video on YouTube and still. And I'll never forget the first year that you took over at Warrington. And Mark Hilton had a testimonial event on a Wednesday night, and we was just sitting in the top 6, and it was, you know, the year Warrington were going to make the Super League playoffs for the first year in history. And it were big. It were big. And I remember you saying after the event, you know, listen, guys, we've had a good night tonight. Everybody just get yourself home. And we never did. We all ended up going out, having a few beers after the event. And you got wind of it. And you walked into the changing rooms the day after and just fucking threatened every single player in the changing room and said, guys,
I remember it well.
I feel like Begbie off Train Spotting, you said. I said, I feel like just kicking off with every single one of you. And you walked out, and Nick Fozzard went, well, I've never seen that before. And everybody just said, listen, guys, just don't mess with Cull. He's the only manager who you do not mess with. And I think you've carried that reputation round as as that guy who smashed Andy Goodway down the tunnel.
Well, he got me back, Woody. I did him, he did me, and I get it. But, you know, you just got to put your markers down somewhere. Whether I'm right or wrong, it's irrelevant now. It was, I honestly don't think I'd have had a stellar international career, but whatever chance I had went on that day. So I kind of regret it in that way, because, you know, that opens up all sorts of doors in your career. But, what it is what it is. You know, it was an instinctive reaction to disrespect, and it's something that, you know, as we know as players, respect's worth more than anything. It really is. It's worth more than medals. It's worth more than money. It certainly is for me, and I know it is, because I know the quality of the guys that I'm talking to.
At Get a Tax Rebate, we make it easy for you or your business to claim back thousands of pounds in tax. Most people, like Jane and Philip, don't realise that they are owed money from HMRC, so they never claim. All you need to do is fill out a simple form on our website and we'll do the rest. It's that simple. We've also helped business owners claim back millions of pounds in research and development R&D tax credits. So if you're working in a business or own one, contact us today to see if we can help you claim back tax and improve your cash flow. Get a Tax Rebate, your tax refund concierge.
$18.95 Sports and State of Mind, the ultimate lineup.
Macy Vienna Aesthetics based in Wigan. For all your wrinkle treatments, dermal fillers, lip enhancement, energy boost injections, immune boost injections, please visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Macy Vienna Aesthetics.
CDX Security, proudly supporting Rugby League.
Coops, just for you, we'll skip forward just from your Warrington career because your first stint, now you're going on to the NRL to St George Illawarra Dragons. What do you think took you to that part of the world to play in the world's best competition? Do you think that was down to talent, or do you think, like Paul's saying, do you think it was just down to the graft and the grit and determination you show in games?
It was just something that I always wanted to do, and we talked to Paul about it, and I think it was through Paul spoke to Sam Burgess, and Sam recommended an agent. There's a guy called Steve Gillis, still my manager today, and he put the word out there and ended up at St George. But it was that, as what Paul was saying then, you walk in the changing room, no one knows who you are, not even look at you. It was exactly the same. In fact, the only guy who did, there were a couple of guys that came and spoke to me, was the captain, who's Ben Cray, who's a St George legend. The older guy, the ex-players, which was Dean Young and Ben Hornby, two legends, both Test players. Craig Young, who was a superstar prop forward in his day, real tough man, and Gaz Widdop joined a little bit later. But I had exactly the same thing, and it was worse. You're talking like 80% of the team just didn't even look at me, and then it was one of the moments where I went, right, okay, you're gonna have to do something a little bit here now. And then it was just I just had that bee in my bonnet the whole pre-season, the 4 months, that I was just gonna do whatever I could to make me mark. And similar story really. Training, first contact session. It's a different game than NRL. It's very clean. It's very clinical. I wouldn't have said it over there because I remember Lee Mossop said it and got absolutely slammed in the media. But it's more physical from a wrestle, head in tight, dirty tactics point of view in the Super League than it is in the NRL. The NRL is more speed, bang, bang, consistent and more aerobic. Super League's more about just a fight in the middle, And then when it came to training, I just loved it. And that's all I was doing. I just made it as physical. At any point we had training, that guy you have in training, we've all had him. We can all name names of players, can't we, that starts taking people out and you go, who's that dickhead? Well, that's exactly what I was doing. And it worked. And Steve Price, obviously our coach now, sort of picked me for that reason, really. He gave me the opportunity and it just went from there.
Yeah, and you went did you do 3 seasons at St George? So, you kind
of...
Yeah,
3 years, yeah.
Because I've always said it, I'm not just saying it while you're on there, I think you were one of, I won't say an unsung hero from the players' point of view, but probably, it was good to see you got your accolades, like for England in call-ups when you come back and played and stuff, how you said, George. I thought you grafted and you played for Warrington. I thought you were a shoo-in every week. I always rated you very highly, and it was good to see that you went over there and become a consistent performer for St George. Well, you're getting rave reviews back over here. You're playing regular, played 3 seasons there, so it was nice that you've kind of not gone 2 fingers up to him, but probably give us the impetus that you work hard and you back yourself. You can go out there and you can do what you want, can't you? I think we had a little bit of it last week, didn't we? Like with Ed, more about just believing yourself and doing the right things and channeling your energy in the right ways and hers. And
I think on that though, what Mike's saying about that sometimes in rugby league and how you sort of can motivate yourself. A lot of it can come down to timing as well. And I think you've had that experience there, Coop, walking into a changing rooms. It could have gone either way. You either look at it and say, do you know what? I want to go home here. I don't like it. I don't like being ignored. I want to be back in my comfort zone in Warrington, where I've got Matty Blythe and all my young gang to walk around. But you didn't. You stood up and you fought. And the thing that got me is that I was taken back how successful you was early in your career, because I thought he'll do all right over there, Mike Cooper, but he might take about 12 months, 18 months to bed in. He's playing in the NRL. It's the world's best competition. But you definitely stood up. And I think it suited your style of play as well, the NRL.
Yeah, definitely. And one example, one quick story. We had a pre-season camp just before Christmas, and we were out in the bush, Western Sydney, and we'd done 2 nights with the Special Forces. And I mentioned it earlier on, but I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. But at one point, we did the old inner patrol, flashbang type thing, bag over your head, stress position, bag off, interviewed on camera. Who you're going to give in out your teammates? And obviously being a pommy bastard, my whole name over there was you pommy cunt, you pommy bastard, you pommy. That's all I got called for 3 years. Even the local people in the shop call you a pommy summers. You know what I mean? That was just horrible. You're out fighting everyone. Anyway.
No, you know where was Wigan has felt at Warrington. Everyone used to call us Wigan bastards. Unless we was playing Wigan, Cullen call us the MI5, the Wigan MI5. Go and buy the Wigan Evening Post so we know what team's playing.
But that just that isolation, and the army lads are giving me a dig every time they lift me up and this, that, and the other. And anyway, did the 2 nights, had no sleep for a couple of days. Gets back to Wollongong to the training, and everyone gets off the bus, and I was like last off the bus chatting, and it's one of them where I realised I didn't have a car. Everyone had gone. No one offered to give me a lift. Mrs. was in work, and I had to then walk back to my flat. And it's one of them moments, where you just want to burst into tears. And it was like, after 2 days of doing that, no sleep, no food, in a 35-degree heat. Do you really want to be doing this? Bag on your back, and that when you just think, I'm on my own here. I know we weren't allowed phones, and I had to walk back. It's only a couple of miles, but just that mentality of just like, God, you are on your own. And then, but I actually then enjoyed it. I really found like peace in myself. My own, comfort. Yeah, Kate was with me over there, but when I was on my own, I just felt I was missing that. I needed to get out of that Warrington bubble, and at the time, I wasn't behaving the right way off the field as well. As probably you all know, I was enjoying myself too much and not giving it everything that I could, and that was really the big turning point for me.
They do say, don't they, where there's discomfort, there's growth. I'm a big believer in that. And I think you're right. You've put yourself in an uncomfortable position. But then from there, we grow stronger, don't we? And I think it's easy to sort of, want to... the easy option is basically to get not a train ticket. It'll be a long journey, but a flight ticket. A flight ticket back to the UK and just say, you know what, I've had a dig, but it's not for me. So that's massive pat on the back for you there, Coops.
You were right, Woody, when you said it suited his game. It suited his game because, and I don't mind saying it. And whether it's Mike's family or not, mate, he's got pace, he's got footwork, Mike, and that's very similar to yourself, Woody. Not the biggest prop forward, so you've got to find something. You've got to work out. I remember working with your good self, and some of the work that you did with Darbs and Gary Chamber, just to be the fastest play the ball in the club. You spent hours on your own at Beeman, not an easy school, not an easy place to be there. Just on your own in the mud, trying to work out how you're going to get in the team by being the fastest play the ball in Warrington, and then developed it into right, no, I've got this now. No one at Warrington plays the ball quicker than me because I've got a little bit of footwork. I'll move, I'll hit the floor, I'll play it. We'll just run on the back here. We kind of change the game plan on the back of your effort. Well, Mike's very similar. He's got footwork, he's got pace. He developed into being the quickest play the ball that we had. What he's also got as well is a fantastic offload. Now, you're quite right that in the NRL, there wasn't that many people trying to pull his head off or rip his shoulder out. He was just hitting, spinning and tossing an offload up, popping it up. And it was landing and was working. That cleaner game where you can actually work on your skills, you're getting rewarded for a quick play of the ball, opposed to 4 people jumping on you. It was, for me, if he could go through the tough stuff, and I thought and believed that he could, and he did, that game in the NRL would suit him to the ground. It's quicker, it's cleaner, it's more efficient, and then you really are going to see, the defence is obviously going to be a lot harder, so you've got to work even harder to get that little bit of footwork, find the floor, because the pace of the play the ball is what the modern game is based on. If you don't win it, you know that more than anyone, Mick. If you don't win that row, you might as well go home.
Oh, no, and I'm not just saying it while these two are here. I thought you both had really good engines as well. You were fit, both of you were fit. You did have good leg speed, and I used to like jumping out of the back of you two, because again, like you said, Cole, you got us quick play the balls, and and I think if you've got pace in your team and you can play quick, it's I wish sometimes they're just watching the game now, watching these NRL games and that set restart. I think, if that had been in 15, 20 years ago, it'd have been unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think we'd have probably won more with it than Warrington teams we've had, wouldn't we? Certainly.
It certainly suits him, wouldn't it? Whether it's you, John Clark at 9, or you at 9, and Michael Monaghan, Darryl Clark now. We finally caught up with the quality at St Helens from Kieran Cunningham and yourself in the early days, where that game's just changed over a 2 or 3 year period. You've just got to change it from your 6 and 7 controlling everything. Mate, 9's controlling everything here, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Just moving a bit away from the rugby now. I kind of start with you, Coops. You've got a couple of businesses going as well. I was interested. I read something in the, I don't know if it was online or feature, just regarding the COVID. With your business, you do a lot of PPE, weren't you? I think it was a really great touch. You kind of put your business on hold to concentrate on that, didn't you? Just give us a bit more into that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so 2 businesses at 8095 Sports, which is the teamwear company, and Bubble Customised. So we do all the workwear and school uniform and the printed embroidery, and do the manufacturing ourselves. And just from the contacts that are made, and an old neighbour of mine, Norman, owns a company called Imaginate, who make toys for Walt Disney and make all the characters that go in Happy Meals and things. And it's got 20 years experience importing from around the world, mainly in China. And then just for the PPE and the COVID thing, it's just something that came about. I was already speaking to his contacts, and already imported some stuff over from over there, from Turkey and China. And it was like, well, can you get all the PPE products? Yeah, we can. And what we found really easy was a lot of people buying stuff and buying it off like Alibaba or something, and struggling to get it through customs. We had people on the ground, and we still got people on the ground over there who make sure that it's all passed and hits all the safety stuff. So that's how that ended up coming about, and doing a lot of stuff with the local councils and things for the kids that are going back to schools, and that really took over my life. Let's say I've had 2 weeks off pretty much, but before that I was working probably 12 hours a day on the emails and the phones, just back into with China and Turkey on the phone.
Micky, can I just jump in there as well, because obviously we've got Cullen here, who's been a tough player for Warrington, great determination. Coops, who's seen as a tough guy, but it's this stuff away from the field. Coops is very business minded. He's got all that going on, and then Cullen, once you finished playing, you actually went into the marketing side of the Warrington Wolves and helped to rebrand the Warrington Wolves and design the kit. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you got into that as well.
It was, again, almost by default, would he really? I think I've worked for 3 boards of directors at Warrington. In the early days of the late 70s, early 80s, the club was owned and run by Brian Pitchford, absolute gentleman. And I thoroughly enjoyed working in that environment. And you kind of make it, you're mixing and mingling with guys here who are self-made, they're multi-millionaires, they're running very successful businesses. And when Brian moved on, the club was bought out by Peter Higham. And I absolutely loved working for Peter Higham and what he did in the day, because we were all, although professional rugby league players, we all have full-time jobs. And as we know, we'd lose 2 or 3 jobs per year because you broke your finger, your shoulder, your arm, your leg, you've blown a ligament, you broke your jaw. So it's very, very difficult to hold down a career or any kind of full-time job. And Peter Higham would literally go, right, if you need any work, he's running 4 or 5 different companies. Half the Warrington team would be on his labouring gang somewhere over in Widnes, and many of the other directors would do the same. And one day, I've said to Peter Higham, Pete, you know, I can't remember what injury I'm recovering from. I've lost the job. I'm out of work. Have you got anything? He went, right. He said, okay. You're now the new club's new commercial manager. I got, right. I was digging holes last week. So you're the new club's commercial manager. I went, right. What's my first job? He went, go and tell the bloke that's doing it that he's no longer doing it, and you're now the man. I went, no, seriously. And it's that kind of, you know, it sounds brutal. It absolutely was. I had to go in and go to the chap, and I've walked in the office and they've all gone, hiya, Paul, what are you doing here? And I've gone, right, I'm starting work. I'm the new commercial manager. And the commercial manager's kind of looking at me going, no, I'm the commercial manager. I went, yeah, but Peter Higham says that it's now, and honestly, God, he literally put it on me. And what they can do, I think people like that, Sam and Rand's very, very similar. They make decisions. There's a trait in all the guys that I've worked for that they just make a decision. Good, bad, or indifferent, right or wrong, only time tells. They have the ability to go, right, make a decision. Oh, by the way, the responsibility is now on you. Go and make it work. And within that, I walked in and I'm right. And it's the same time that Super League's about to break. And we can't no longer be the, you know, Warrington Rugby League Football Club. You've got to have a nickname, and it was compulsory. It was in the criteria handed out by the RFL at the time. You know, the Wigan Warriors, Lee Bears, etc. Oh, was it Lee Bears? Lee Centurions, Oldham Bears, and Warrington. So I'm sat there one day going, right, I've got to invent a nickname for the club, and the club's crest is the fantastic old crest of the town of Warrington. And in the middle is a wolf, and I went, all right, that'll do. We're now the Warrington Wolves. It was literally like that. So overnight we became the Warrington Wolves, and that's the story. You know, I'm not gonna a marketing degree or design degree. I went, right, that'll do. It looks aggressive, it looks nasty, so I put a bit of barbed wire around it, or got one of the, someone in the office threw some barbed wire around it, gave it to Elgren, and they stuck it on the kit.
Wow, I think Warrington Wolves now, I think they're actually employing someone about 40, 50 grand a year to do that job.
But it's a good job the town hall crest wasn't a kitten.
Yeah.
Little puppy. Warrington puppies, that would have gone down well, wouldn't
it? Just touch on your coaching as well, local, because we've sort of skipped past that, but very successful at Warrington in form of setting the foundations, the transition. It was no secret when you came in. You basically, to use your word, you brought us out of the abyss. I always remember that. But we was in danger at the time at Warrington of being the first team to ever play in a lower division. They'd always played in the top competition, and you came in, and to be fair, you made a massive difference early on. And I think that grit that you played with as a player, you installed that into us and kept us up. But first coach to take us to the Super League playoffs, then you. First coach to take us, I think we finished 4th that year when the Andrew Johns came in. And then obviously, you left. How did you feel when you'd left the Wolves after contributing to such a... For me, Cole, what I'm trying to say is you started the dynasty of where Warrington are at now.
Oh, well, Woody, coming from you, who was there and I kept, and what you've done means that's massive, mate. It's absolutely huge. It's an emotional subject. But I read something. I read something recently about the state of the club in those early 2000s. And I literally was the 4th coach in 12 months. In the 12 calendar months, I was the 4th coach. Darryl van der Velde, good old friend of ours, we know him very well, David Plange, Steve Anderson, and then me. So 4 men ran the club in the space of 1 calendar month. And you know at the time, Woody, I've gone back and I jumped from dummy half, had 4 different names, 4 different colours. It was literally chaos. And I said a piece recently when we did a kind of review about the Leeds game, the Andrew Johns game, like ground zero. That was arguably, the facts are there, the videos are there for anyone to see, the worst Warrington team squad that's ever been assembled. Why? Because we're 12th out of 12th and we're getting relegated. And the style of football is unacceptable. And you'll know it, Woody, because you were there and you were in it. The atmosphere, the culture was absolutely toxic. You cannot run a club, run a business in that way. And I'd left 2 years before because of it. So in terms of due diligence, I'd done mine. I'd lived it. I'd played there for 16, 17 years. I'd coached there for 4 or 5 years. I knew it inside out. And I left because it was going downhill at a rate. And I didn't want to be a part of it, and I couldn't change it. The people involved wouldn't let go of anything and wouldn't let change happen. They were running it in their way, and it's not the way I wanted to live my life, so I simply left. And I left and had no job to go to. It was only because Gary Chambers rang me the following night and went, Cole, I believe you're done, you've walked out. I said, Gary, I'm not putting up with that nonsense anymore. I'm not doing it. Mate, they're going to ruin it. They're going to take the club down, and I don't want to be a part of it. I've told them what I think. They won't listen, so I'm done. I'm out. He went, right, what are you going to do? I said, I've got no idea. I'm out of work. He said, I'll ring Whitehaven and get you the job. I went, seriously? So he rang up. He ran the directors at Whitehaven. He's a Whitehaven lad. He knows the board very well. They invited me up, and I became Whitehaven coach the following day. I'm not making it up. So you kind of drop into that coaching career almost by default. I was very passionate about it. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it the right way. But that early 2000s at Warrington, as you know, because you were a part of it, and I think, what are you only one of 5, possibly 6 players that played for Warrington in 2002 that were still played in 2005 in the Andrew Johns game. So that change in 3 seasons was absolutely dramatic. 37 players, I think, played for Warrington in 2002. And 5 of you stayed the course. Now, I didn't get it all right. Some left that you'd like to have kept. Some left because they went for more money or went on to bigger and better things. But to move 30 players over a 2-3 year period was dramatic and remarkable. And you were one of the 5 that we thought has got the attributes, the character, the skill, and the determination that's worth persevering with. And you did another 10 years after that.
What was the?
Loving this, isn't it?
Yeah. Keep going, Cole.
Cool. Just because you built that, you could see you changed the Warrington, the culture, and you made some great signings, and you were probably, if anything, you were kind of still that inconsistent team, weren't you? One year be red hot, the year after you kind of struggle a little bit and under. Do you think when you left, was it end of 2008? Was it? You see,
start of 2008.
Did you feel there was some unfinished business when you left? Was you disappointed how it finished because you'd not quite? Because you've been assembling teams, and you had a star-studded line up in 2008, didn't you? You had a really, really strong squad, and again, it just didn't. I don't know if was players low on confidence that year, and it kind of.
No, there's, as always, mate. There is a backstory. I know now, with the benefit of hindsight, I was done at that point. I was done for personal reasons. I had more important things to do in my life than literally work 24/7, 365. And as we know, Woody, run and manage a group of players that were a challenge at times. And in it, Mick, you can't. I couldn't find 13 Kevin Sinfields or 13 Danny Maguires or 13 Micky highams. Men that live the right life and play to the very highest of level. And when you're making so many changes to a club, that's one of the. We weren't tough enough to be consistent, and I knew that at the time. And you were constantly trying to change the balance within the squad So the weaker ones don't run the world. But when you're making that many, we were 10 years behind St Helens, 10 years behind Wigan, 10 years behind Leeds, and 10 years behind Bradford. And where's the proof? Well, we're 12th and going down in 2002, and we're in the top 4 before Andrew Johns arrives. And we are hitting peaks and dropping because the squad wasn't tough enough with the amount of changes and making enough personal sacrifices to get a consistent level. You've got to be mentally very, very tough and do it all day, every day, all year to be winning, to get into finals and to be winning it. Now, we had some, we just didn't have enough. So it's very clear to me. I mean, I wasn't in terms of disappointed because I've lost my job at Warrington. It ran its course. With the benefit of hindsight, I should have left. I should have stood down at the start of the 2008 season, because my 3 last signings, Louis Anderson, an absolute diamond of a player and a bloke, Michael Monaghan, and Matt King. Now, I know now with the benefit of hindsight, I'm done at that point. I'm physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted. I just didn't know it at the time. Yeah. So that drive and passion and control you've got to have to run it had gone, it seeped away. So that would only be my only disappointment. I should have stepped aside at the start of 2008 because I'd gone within 2 or 3 months. But it shouldn't detract from that cultural change that happened through the club. And if there's anything, Mick, that disappoints me within that era, that you kind of get tagged, or I believe in tagged, that we ran some kind of loose ship, and it wasn't. We were no worse than anyone else. Unfortunately, we were no better either.
Warrington did have, you had that tag, didn't you? Like kind of the party team, didn't you? Even when you had like quality players, and before I come to Warrington, you did have kind of that. You had a bit of that tag as like piss cans, or
absolutely, Mick, and I was absolutely aware of it. And Woody's thrown one of the nicknames in before. Well, one of my other ones was the Fun Police, because you are drink testing, drug testing, hammering players on a daily basis, which then becomes oppressive. And you're doing it to protect the player, protect the club, and try and survive yourself in a very high-pressured situation. Now, because you've been around the block and you've been around a number of clubs, that you have a right to celebrate when you're winning trophies and when you're in grand finals. Unfortunately, we had too many in that transformation, in that mix, in that constant search for change and better players. We've got a couple of loose threads who want to live the life that you're living, Mick, scoring and winning tries for St Helens or Wigan or Bradford without actually winning trophies. And that's where it came from. I know when I left Warrington as an assistant coach, the drink culture there was absolutely toxic. It was one of the reasons that I left. And when I came back, I absolutely hammered it. No, you can't get rid of all of it, and you've got to manage it in the best way that you possibly can. Well, that would be, a concern of mine that, those that don't know will simply fill in the blanks and make up the stories themselves. I tell you, the drink testing, the drug testing was relentless, absolutely relentless, until it got to a point where I've kind of gone, I'm done with this. And it was in that back end of that era where I'm done. I'm not chasing this anymore. This is about protecting the lives of individual players, the families of individual players, the club itself, the game itself, and then me as a coach. So that would be a disappointment that anyone would have the audacity to accuse me of running a loose ship. It was not the case at all. You're working too hard, trying to protect players that should have known and ought to have known better.
I think, touching, it was something that you'd say a lot there, Cull, about, guys, you're drinking like St Helens, but you're not winning the trophies like St Helens, and I agree. Warrington, although they had this sort of party name tag, we weren't drinking any more than any other Super League team. It's just that where we was falling down is we weren't playing to our potential. You know, we weren't
good enough, would it? We weren't good enough. We weren't tough enough to live that type of life. We had a few who pretended to be superstars, and they weren't. They were very good players, but they wanted to be out partying like St Helens do when they win a trophy, when Wigan do when they win a trophy, when Bradford do, and when Leeds do when they win a trophy. They were doing it without winning a trophy, and that balance over a 2 or 3 year period became an issue. So when my last 3 signings are players like Matt King, Michael Monaghan, Louis Anderson, you're not getting them just because they're good players. You're getting them because you're trying to change the cultural balance within the side. I ran out of time. No drama. I know more than anyone how and why that came about. You know, and it's a real kind of personal issue, obviously. Yeah. And I just kind of ran out of time in terms of trying to get the best out of the Matt Kings, the Louis Andersons, and the Michael Monaghans. You know, I remember at the time people saying that because Michael Monaghan, you know him very well. Mate, he didn't come to this country to play hooker. He'd virtually signed as a scrum half at Hull, and we'd have to do some real digging to get Monaghans out of the contract at Hull and sign him for Warrington. And I wanted him because A, he was a very good player, but B, his character and he's off the field was exemplary. The feedback and due diligence that we were getting from his contacts in Australia, he's the man that you want in your dressing room, along with Matt King, along with the likes of Louis Anderson. Now, we already had Vinny, so we knew Louis very, very well. It was about trying to readdress that balance within the squad. It turns out it was the right move for the right players at the right time. I'd run out of time with it, and I've got no dramas with that. It's a brutal game, and I understand the brutality of it. In fact, it's what got me involved in the game in the first place.
Just on that, Coots, Woody, as well. Did you kind of feel a little bit as though you'd let Cull down? You know, kind of at that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, Mickey, but I'll go right back to the start when we were talking about when Paul took over, and at that point, I'm a fan. I'm the kid, calling up the phone book with my dad and going to every single game. And before Paul took over, you go to the Wilderspool with almost deflated because you knew it was going to be crap. And all whatever anyone says, the atmosphere now at the Halliwell Jones on a Friday night for playing Wigan or Saints or whatever is the best you're going to get, and it's the best you're going to get in Rugby League. I've not been State of Origin, I've not played in it, but that's the best you're going to get. You know what I mean? There is no better atmosphere than that, and that all started because Paul brought not only a toughness but an excitement back to Warrington. And we became a team known for being flamboyant. And I was only watching the game where Joey came back the other day. I think the club put it on Facebook, and there's the passing, the moves that we were doing. It was different, and we became exciting again, and that's continued within the club. This sort of like sexy team, like the way we were playing, and but I think we all know because I remember I'm one of the people getting drug tested, drink tested, smoking tested, everything, and I know that Paul knew every single time I went out. He knew where it was, where it had been, probably how many pints it had, this, that, and the other. And I think all the players at that moment, in that moment, if we're really honest, we let him down. Because what we didn't have was that mental toughness. I believe, now I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, to be able to do it on the field when it really mattered, when it really counted, when it was sort of head to head. We just didn't quite have that belief, I think, and that mental toughness just to get through it. And I guess some of that discipline comes from that.
I think from a personal point of view, for myself, though, I was really disappointed because I was injured. I come back from a shoulder dislocation, and first game back against Catalan, I dislocated my shoulder again. So I was really disappointed that I couldn't take the field. I felt like I'd let Cull down, and that was an uncontrollable situation. Picking up the injury. But you're right, Coops. I think if we look back, we let Cull down as a manager, and I think when Cull left. I think it was sort of, it gave people a wake-up call. One of the things that was a massive shock to the Warrington team as well was when Tony Smith came in, is he dropped Lee Breers and got rid of Martin Gleeson. And I think that was sort of a reality check that woke a lot of players up and said, shit, you know what I mean? We need to become more leaders, because we were sort of following, the sort of the in crowd, and it wasn't the right thing to do. So looking back, I can look back on my time at that and think, you know what, it's too easily led. I needed to be stronger as a person, but, a bit young and naive on that front. But again, going back to what Cull brought in, that was, the foundations of the dynasty that, that were Warrington are at now. That all started from Cull coming in,
Woody, when we're talking about players there in terms of, you mentioned Brazy and you mentioned Glees, and I've not signed a player that I don't know practically everything about him. I've done my own work. I've done my due diligence. Martin Gleeson was the centre I always wanted to be. So when we've gone out, and that was on my say-so, and gone to St Helens and got Martin Gleeson from St Helens, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting a world-class centre. And I'm getting a guy that is leaving St Helens. Lee Breers, very, very talented. And I know what I've got. And you're trying to manage that, and you're trying to control it. But that shouldn't just... But Martin Gleeson and Lee Breers are just like yourself and Andrew Johns at the time and Coops. That's why Greg Inglis has just signed for Warrington, because you were a part of building a picture. I said it right at the start. I couldn't find 13 Kevin Sinfields, because Leeds had most of them. Danny Maguire, Rob Burrow, Jamie Jones. Those guys that golden dynasty that was at Leeds, that Leeds have created through their... Leeds are the best club of the modern era by a million miles because of what they created, where their own golden dynasty. And they didn't buy them, they brought them, signed them as kids and brought them through their structure. But you can't go and get Kevin and Danny and Rob and Jamie, etc., and Keith Senior, because we certainly tried, but they're tied in at Leeds. So when you're trying to bring a player to a club, I think when I first went back, we've got 2 second rowers playing in the centre and struggling. And the 2 centres are injured, or they're not playing anywhere near, Again, just look at that squad in 2002. And you know, Woody, because you were a part of everything that went on in 2002. You felt it because you were in it. That when you want to... I know I couldn't sign 13 Paul Cullens and win anything. We'd have started and won a few fights, but we won a few games. You've got to bring in someone like Martin Gleeson, who was literally, arguably, one of the best centres in the world. We want to play rugby. We want to entertain these 3,000 people at Wilderspool, and it's pouring down, miserable, and everything's broken. We're going to go to the Halliwell Jones. We want it 100 metres long, 68 metres wide, and we want to play rugby. I want the style of rugby under my guidance and my leadership in a manner that befits Warrington Rugby League Club. I'm a fan of the 70s. I've watched John Bevan play. I know what a centre's like. I've been a centre. I know what a standoff is. I've been one. Lee Breers is arguably, as we know, one of the cleverest, smartest players. No, if you don't want Lee Breers on your side, you've got to go and replace him. Get a better player on the same or less money. If we weren't spending anywhere near salary cap in 2002 and 3 and 4. So you just got to try and bring players in. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But fix it up on the go, because as we said before, the season's not going to wait for me to find 13 Kevin Sinfields. You're done. You're all sat. You're all gone at that point. Get it up and running and improve as you go. And hopefully that's what we try to do. Hopefully those that really know generally respect that.
It's funny. I was talking to Steph Ratchford's dad, funnily enough, this week, and he was asking me. He loves his rugby, and he was asking me what was Paul Cullen like, what's Tony Swift like, etc. And we're going on and we're talking about different players, and I was saying to him, I said, I loved my time with Cull and I loved my time with Tony. I said, but do you know what? I said, we'd have won Super League if we'd have had Paul Cullen and Tony Smith who could have worked together. I said, because it would have been the ideal situation. Because we've never won a grand final. Warrington have never won a grand final.
I'm mindful of it, Woody. I mean, Tony's a good friend of mine. We've never, all the time we've known each other when he's coaching Huddersfield and at Whitehaven and Warrington and Leeds, etc. We were good friends, and Tony didn't take over from me, did he? Tony took over from Jimmy Lowe's.
Yeah.
That point where Brett Hodgson was a brilliant signing, Micky was a brilliant signing, Gareth Carvell just added that little bit of extra, and then Tony's got the energy and the guile and the nous to take it to the next level. It's a success story. I'm not regretful. I'm not bitter in any way, shape, or form. You'd like to set the record straight with one or two at some point, but there's more important things in the world. There really is.
I've told you, Cole, we love controversy on here. Say what you want.
Yeah, we do.
Just going on. Obviously, when you left Warrington, you took over the witness. You got witness job, didn't you? And obviously, I'm good friends and coach at Leeds, John Duffy, and he tells me the story. Like you'll tell me a little bit more about it. The day when you first come in, and like the lads are on fucking Nintendo Wii in the playroom and all this, and you're like, what the fuck's that room though? And like, so anyway, you tell it, mate. It's a cracker because Dust tells it me. It's a blinder.
Well, it's one of them times, Micky, where it's a little bit like when I left. I mean, I left and I didn't know that I was going to go to Whitehaven. I've kind of found the furthest club that I possibly can from Warrington, which is Whitehaven. I didn't realise how tough it was to get there when I agreed to sign. I met the board in Keswick in a little pub restaurant. It's absolutely ideal. It looks like it's fell off a biscuit tin. It was that nice. And they'd, honest to God, and they're lovely people. I still speak to them this day. And he said, "Yeah, you'll come up and stay in the lakes." And anyway, it was a tough 2 years.
Yeah.
The 300-mile round trip, I was doing it 3 or 4 times a week. Let me just digress a second, because when we were chatting before about knowing the club well, even when I wasn't there, because as the Whitehaven coach, we had literally nothing. Facilities weren't great. So, and as you'll remember at the time, Woody, we're training at William Beeman. So all of a sudden, I've gone there first week at Whitehaven, and I've gone with Darbs, and I've literally borrowed or pinched every bit of kit that Warrington Wolves had. So we went in that big lockup, and I've got some old kind of bus of a car. It's got tackle bags, tackle shields, sledges, poles, cones, ladders. There's everything that you were training with in the morning went in my car and went up the M6 to Whitehaven. I've organised a training session at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning just to mess with people's heads, just to break it up and let them know something was different. And told all the players, 7 o'clock on the pit pitch at Kells, that's the one that looks right over the ocean. It's absolutely stunning. And I've got that much kit on the field. Mate, I could have brought down an helicopter. These poles, these flags, these cones everywhere. And I'd given the same kind of routine, would it? That the only thing I want off you is everything. That's all I want. I'm going to give you everything, and the only thing I want back is everything. 7 o'clock, sober, on the pit pitch. Would it? I was on my own there for an hour and a half. Until I realised that all the players worked at Sellafield were all on back shift. and they couldn't say, "Cole, we're not coming." I'd give it to them that hard. 7 o'clock. If you're late, you're gone. I'd literally done the Churchillian, blasted them. Hour and a half later, I'm stood there on my own. I've had to go and pick all the cones up and sledges and poles, put them all back in my car, and get them back in cabin at Beeman before Daniel Vanderveld walked in the following day. Dan's got me a spare key cut. But I knew the club for those 2 years, Woody. I was going to the club 4 or 5 times a week, nicking the kit at midnight and having it back for the session the following day. So I knew exactly what was going wrong with the club, even though I was coaching Whitehaven. I was at the club more when I wasn't the coach than I was when I was.
What was the story when, I know we've asked you about this witness club, but quickly, can you just tell us that story about when someone tied a horse up to the rugby sticks in
Hey,
Whiting.
that's the same one, Woody. It's a lovely pitch, and they're all kind of miners' cottages, miners' houses on the top. And it was one of them that I kind of then eased off the 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I then shifted it to like 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning because there was a bit of a thing where all the guys went out for the drink on a Saturday night. So I thought I'll throw in an 8 o'clock Sunday morning session. And I just worked out then what the shift pattern was at Sellafield and when the farmers were lambing, because then you could have players or not have players. It was the greatest education I've ever had in rugby league coaching Whitehaven, because it humbled you how hard these guys work just to play rugby. And my demands were irrelevant. You've got to work around them. They don't work around you. And that's not arrogant from their behalf. They've got to do 10 hours on a farm because they're lambing or they're milking. And you've got to, you'd have one scrum half and no standoff because he's on the farm, or you'd have a hooker and no loose forward because they're on back shift and day shift. You just got to try and work your patterns around it. But I've called this session, and I can't see my hand in front of my face because the fog's come off the Irish Sea on the top of the cliffs at Whitehaven on the pit pitch at Kells. So the lads have turned up and I've got them round. They're doing a couple of laps just to get moving. Again, every bit of kit that Warrington own is on the pitch, all laid out meticulously. I've been there for an hour and a half in the fog, putting it all round. The players have gone round for a couple of laps. And as we're jogging round, the fog has miraculously lifted. And the farmer who owned the land in the corner had brought a horse out and tied it to the posts when it was foggy. And I'm looking, going, mate, it's like something out of Peter Kay. I'm going to my assistant coach, Pete Smith. Peter, there's a horse tied to me post. and no one's checking me on. I went, Peter. So Peter's ignored me, Pete Smith. I went, Pete, someone's tied a horse to the post. And Pete's gone, oh, it'll be all right, Cole, leave it. Old Jimmy brings it out for a feed. And the players ran round the pitch, kind of ran round the horse and carried on. Mate, and no one said a word. And eventually, this old guy comes out, uncouples the horse. The horse has had its dinner by this point. There's a big circle round the post where it's been eating for an hour, and takes it back into the stables. And no one batted an eyelid bar from there. I've kind of come off going, I just imagine that. There's a horse in the cabaret suite.
Just thinking then, you said about getting knowing the players when you sign. I remember was it with Witherspoon and he had Paul who was telling us about he had this new footwork drill come over from America, and you put that video on and it was Martin and Mark dancing at Christmas. That footwork.
So switch the video. Lee Braze and Mike Wainwright, pickpockets. They were very good at it. You put the video remote control down. You turn around. You'd say something, mate. It's gone, and another video has been slipped in. Characters, I think, is the word, isn't it? Or one of them.
Very. So, sorry. What's the witness story then, Cole? What's
with John?
Well,
winners have been rescued by Steve O'Connor. He's poor. He's one of them. The club was in absolute disarray. It's been bankrupt a number of times, and Steve's poured his millions in to rescue the club. And Steve's entrepreneurial. He's a million ideas. He is. It's like The Office. Everything's out the box and blue sky thinking. And it generally is. He's not earned all that money because someone's given him. He's worked hard and he's earned it. And he's changed and transformed the whole office. So. You've got like purple bean bags and a little coffee machine. There's no rooms. It's all hot desking, and everyone's got a laptop and an iPad. It looks fantastic if you're working at Google. And I walked in. At this point, they've played 4 games and lost 4 games, and are on the way out the Northern Rail. Because if you remember, Steve McCormack's a lovely bloke, and he had a real tough time, Steve, because the club went bankrupt. And Steve was the head coach. He'd been really successful. So the club's gone, lost all the players, lost all the money. And then Steve O'Connor's come in 3 months later and rescued it. And the season starts the following week. So Steve had took a job elsewhere, came back, and there was no players. So they just crammed a load of players in, as many as you possibly could get. And the season started. Well, 4 or 5 games in, it's all gone Pete Tong. So the coach goes and a new one comes in. And I've walked in. And and Steve's very proudly showing me the office, the bean bags and the coffee machine, and I kind of looked up, and I know John very well because we played in the same team at Warrington, and we're good friends from a long time ago. So I said hello, and I'm just kind of scanning around, and I've got players playing on Xboxes. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning, and there's a competition about who's winning FIFA something on an Xbox, and and all of a sudden, big lad, the kit man, Big Paul, diamond of a fella, comes walking in because he's just been to the Asda. I didn't know what the Asda was until I went to witness. It's Asda. It's just the Asda.
The Asda.
I thought it was an Italian restaurant when I first went there. Big lad's gone to the Asda. He's come back with it, and you can't get any more bin bags in your hands, plastic bags. He's been to Asda, and he must have 6 or 7 bags in his fingers. I mean, his fingers are going white because they're that heavy. And all of a sudden, all the players get up and go and meet him in the corridor. And I'm kind of stood back going, by the way, we're only playing Hull KR on weekend. Massive game in the championship as it was. Massive game coming that we've got to win. I tell you, it was Toulouse. We're playing Toulouse, and if we lose it, we get kicked out the Northern Rail, and you've got to wait a year. Because you remember when you had to win the Northern Rail or the grand final to tick the box to apply for a franchise? Yeah. It was around that time. Yeah. So I think we got Toulouse coming, and everyone's on the Xbox, and they're all tapping away on whatever they're doing. I'm kind of stood going, right, where are we training? What's going on? Big lad comes in. He needs the strength of Walter O'Malley to carry what he's got in the shopping bags from the Asda. I said to John Duffy, I said, John, what's going on here? He went, oh, cool, it's big lad goes to the Asda at 10 o'clock. We're having, it's crumpets and butter for brunch.
For brunch.
I've gone, sorry. He said, yeah, we all it's about the new process. All the staff, all the girls in the office and the managers and the kit guys, and we all get together in the new lounge on the beanbags. Put the Xboxes down, and we all have crumpets for brunch as a team bonding exercise. I went, really? And all of a sudden, I looked round. I'm the only one there. They're all around that big table in the middle because they're all now getting the toasters out from the cupboard and throwing all the crumpets into the toasters. You can't move for Lurpak. I went, excuse me. I said, I'm awfully sorry to interrupt, big lad, but can you pick all that up and fucking take it outside and throw it in skip? And I said, John, I said, why are we having fucking crumpets? We're playing fucking Toulouse on Friday. I said, by the way, big lad, when you're throwing the crumpets in the skip, take them fucking Xboxes with you as well. And overnight, you've got it. I said, guys, we've got to start playing rugby and training. That's why we're in the state that we're in. Now, it's not the truth, the old truth, and nothing but the truth. But it was one of them where, at that point, John Duffy's nearly fell over. He's literally wetting himself. But John, wipe that butter off your chin and let's get some 400s done.
You come back in Monday morning, there's no bean bags, there's no toasters out, there's no Xbox and tellies on wall. You just clean it all out, aren't you? But again, that's what that club did at that time, wasn't it?
Mickey, it was instinctive. You know when things aren't going right, you can't just ease up and relax. And it says, you can't show any perceived softness in any way, shape, or form, or anything that's false or fake, because as a player, you're waiting for someone to turn up that's just a little bit undone. The ones are not a little bit, and you can feel it, you can sense it, you can smell it when you're playing, can't you? If they're not right, you've got them. You don't have to be the best player in the world to make an impact. You don't. You just got to be one of the fittest and toughest. And that was just trying to change that mentality around, But good fun.
Brilliant.
Coops, I think just what finishes off, we've done a good hour and a half there. Longest one we've done so far, but it's been.
I'm not started yet, buddy.
I know it. Do you know what, Cole? There's that much stuff on here. I could keep going and going and going all day, but Just on you, Coops, you've been with your testimonial year. Obviously, you're going to have a few events coming on and stuff. How's it been, your preparations for that?
Tough, mate, with everything that's going on in the world right now. You know, it's I don't know whether it's going to get extended or not, to be honest. So I think we've not even had a meeting as a committee for 4 months now. You know, we've not been able to organise, plan anything. So once we, agree a start date and return for the games and things, then I'll start focusing on that again. But it's just unfortunate, you know, that it's been, you know, we've had COVID in the middle of it all. But
instead of Mike Cooper testimonial shirts, you've got the Mike Cooper testimonial.
Yeah, that's yeah.
No, it's difficult line. It's tough here, you know, to slap bang this has happened in your testimony. But I'm sure when things get back to normal, I'm sure they'll come out and support you because you've been a terrific servant to Warrington. You know, you play with your heart on your sleeve. You know, you're a local lad as well. I think you'll be fine when he comes back. And I match up a tenner in for you.
How's the How's the preps going for the return of Super League in a couple of weeks' time? How are you finding that?
Strange one, mate. To be honest with you, talk about controversial. The RFL have sort of said there's going to be start dates and things like that, and I think there's only 3 teams that have actually agreed what their pay is going to be. So we're talking about us playing in 2 weeks' time. There's only 3 clubs that have agreed to return to training. You know, as it stands right now, there's no competition. So you know, the clubs are in the midst of negotiating with the players because we've all been taking a pay cut. We've all been furloughed. We've all been on a pay cut since this all happened, and you know, that's still yet to be decided on when we'll all return. So that's literally ongoing as we speak. As I say, as I'm aware right now, there's only 3 teams that have agreed to what their pay is going to be.
Wow.
And I find it a bit strange that the RFL have agreed, you know, said they're going to have these dates for return when there's only 3 clubs that have agreed pay. And
is this all the stuff that's going on with the union that's been in the press where the players want the voice and?
We all know, don't we? We've had the players in Super League have had no voice whatsoever. And it's just like you get what you dealt, and that's it. Well, it's not like that, is it? You know, and it's probably fortunate from our point of view as a players' union that we've had this time really to be able to stand up because, as I say, what a player is supposed to do, just roll over and accept that the pay is going to be cut, and that's it. It's tough. I know the club are doing everything that they can. I know the club are reasonable. The players have been reasonable. You're talking. There's players losing thousands a month, as we know. You know that you don't get back. You know,
with a view to what? Put your body on the line, maybe an extra game a week as well. So you can't.
It's tough, mate, isn't it? It's tough because you know full well if you're one of them players. I mean, we had these conversations players this week. If you're one of them players that go, well, I'm not going to take a pay cut, and there's other players in the other suit. I don't want to take a pay cut because I might be ending my career and this, that, and the other, and I'm not losing 15 grand this year that I'm never ever going to get back. You know, the rugby union, they've all sorts of contracts of they lose money this year, but they get it back in the following year or whatever else. As far as I'm aware, there's none of that in our game. So,
what's the conversations happening about next year then? Is it going to be the same next year where you're going to have to pay reductions? Because I've read that in the press as well.
I think as it stands right now, it's and I can't speak for every club, but I think it's like a monthly ongoing basis that they'll make decisions. But of course, as a player, you don't know whether you're going to get full pay next month or you're not going to get full pay for the next 12 months. So what do you agree? Do you know what I mean? It's a very, very tough for the club and tough for every club. And I think the reality is we've been fortunate that that the government has stepped in and have helped. As far as I'm aware, that most clubs don't even know what that loan repayment that they were offered. As far as I've been told, the clubs don't even know what them payment terms are yet. Repayment terms. So not every club has taken it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? They've got the 16 million, but that's not 16 million to say, here, there you go, you can have this lump of money. That's got to be paid back at some point. So is it,
Exactly.
you know, it's putting off the inevitable for some teams, and, you know, they've got to find that money again. But it's interesting times as well, because obviously with the situation, it's affecting everyone. And, you know, Simon Moran's big business is obviously public gatherings. He's into the music industry. So his self is going to be losing a ton of money. You know, and he's got to look after his own finances as well. So it is difficult. I won't like to be in that situation really, to take these big pay cuts. I won't like to think I'm putting my body on the line for next to minimal, every single week. So I think the guys have got a fair case there.
Well, you know what it's like, and it's in the back of your mind. It's certainly in the back of my mind. If you don't agree to anything, you're going to be labelled as a player that doesn't care, and what you expect. And you know how bad your injuries have been. We all know what we're all sitting here now with. We're all going to have some form of disability when we're older because of what the career. And yeah, we sign up for it. We know what we're doing. But do you want to be playing 3 games a week on a decent pay cut that you're never going to get back? It's a tough. It's tough. We're getting cracked down the head. 3 times a week. It's a tough one, and of course, then you don't want to get labelled one of them players that are just always all about the money and this, that, and the other. So the players have got a lot of talking to do. There's a lot of negotiation to be done between players and clubs, and I know that there's certainly Warrington and every team will be doing the best they can for the players, but just a tough situation for everyone, isn't it?
I think going back to the 3 fixtures, I mean, I know we did it at the Easter period was very common. And you could just about do it, but I think that to do it on a consistent basis is just absolutely absurd. You just cannot do it. I mean, unless you're talking a squad of 40, 50 players, there's no way you can play 3 games a week in my eyes.
No, and you know yourself. I think we're the only sport, and the safety is and the medical help that we get is fantastic. In boxing, or you do sparring, or boxing or UFC, you spar, you get knocked out, you're having months and months off. We're having 7 days off.
Yeah, well, some days it might not even be that, Coops. It might be 5 days.
And exactly, and if you don't start wobbling, you get sparks, and most of the time you don't come off the field. I don't remember everything that's happened anyway. You get sparks, because you're not wobbling. The club haven't seen it. You then go into follow it, and it's just. What damage is that doing? And it's only as, again, I'm 31 now, and as you get older, you start to sit back and think, hang on a minute, all these head knocks, all these things to my back and my neck, it starts to add up, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And it's tough. It's tough for everyone.
I think, looking back, Cullen will probably agree with this, but when you're in the midst of it and you're doing it, you don't think twice of doing it. You just want to play rugby. It's when you step away and you've been retired a few years, you go, did that really happen? Did I actually go through all that? I couldn't think of anything worse now, you know what I mean? I don't get me wrong, I'd love to play a game of rugby, but the way that we do it, and to, do these 5-day turnarounds and to do the 3 games over Easter, it's absolutely absurd, really.
Yeah. Those situations, Mike, that when, you're wary of saying the phrase like back in the day, but back in the day, there was 4 or 5 competitions per season. So it was the league as it was. There was the Lancashire Cup, the John Player, a floodlit knockout, and then the playoffs at the end of the year, and obviously the Challenge Cup. So for the vast majority of the year, of the season, which started on the 1st of September and ended with either the final at Wembley in May or the playoffs, as it were then, the Premier as it was. That 9-month season, you practically played Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, all through the season for 10 years.
Yeah.
And where at the minute it looks like it's going to be a short, truncated process that may get some games, then the midweight games come back in. Looking back, that was the norm, and I'll get to my point in a minute. The norm was you played Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday for the vast majority of the season. And you're right, Woody, when you're in it, you're almost oblivious to it until you now get to a certain age and you get to 50 and you can't walk. So I think everyone in any kind of conflict resolution, everybody's got to listen to everyone's opinion. I absolutely loved every second of my career as a professional rugby league player. I'd like to be in this position past 50 where I don't need a new knee, but that's not the case. Or I've had 4 shoulder reconstructions, or I've got 8 plates and 4 screws holding my shin together. We have to think about the health and welfare of a player long term, not just in any short period. And I've got no doubt those that's within the RFL or within Super League or any individual within any club, the best way to resolve any conflict is to ask the opinions of those that's going to be out there putting their bodies on the line. And I'm sure at some point common sense will prevail, where you can't play for a long period of time, 3-4 times a week. It's not football. It isn't. The contacts. The modern player is simply, I don't know whether he's any fitter, but he's certainly far bigger and far more powerful than players of our day. Our day was all about running. Those of us that lifted weights were few and far between. It's a powerful modern animal that plays professional Super League these days, professional rugby league these days, and they hit an awful lot harder. The defences are better. It's all got to be factored in. But one way could be, the Easter. I used to love playing over Easter because it was the challenge, and it's a bit like running the 400s. You just want to keep doing it because, as a competitive player, you want to get in the side at the weekend, so you want to see him fall over. You want to see him give up. And I thought Easter was like that. The week before, the 2 games of Easter, the week after, you want to look around and see which player's fallen over or broken here, and you'd wear it as a badge of courage as a player. You look back now and go, oh my gosh. People are literally falling to pieces and getting broken, and the game just carries on. I generally think at some point, and it would make clubs to do what Leeds have done, the Leeds model. Bring your own players through. If you're playing twice a week, well, one of them's got to have 70-80% of your own academy players in it. So everyone's the same. So players like Mike Cooper isn't, I'm not sure Warrington wouldn't do it, but you're not going to play 3 times a week, 80 minutes as a prop forward, or any winger play 3 times a week as a winger for 18 minutes. That you can only play a percentage of, you have to play a percentage of homegrown talent coming through. So if everyone's at 80%, 75-80%, and it has to be, you can't play twice or 3 times a week, you would eventually come up with a common denominator that means the teams are equalised and everyone can have a rest. Now, that's a tough equation to work out. But I think someone should be thinking about it and trying to work it out, because you can quite clearly see there's going to be some resistance if anyone does suggest that players should play 3 times a week just to catch it back up. There's an awful lot of work to be done yet.
Yeah. Right, guys, that's longest one we've ever done. And like you said, we've still not spoke about half the stuff we've got down on here. But no, thanks for your time, guys. It's been a great insight and some funny conversations and some interesting conversations. So thanks for your time, guys. It's been absolutely fantastic. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having us on.
Really
Pleasure, Woody. Pleasure, mate. And hello, nephew.
You can go and get your leftovers now.
We're not seeing each other for a while.
I know. It's a beef sandwich downstairs, isn't it? It's a Sunday night, isn't it?
Yeah.
Missed it.
I don't eat meat. No, I'm vegan. Forgot.
Oh yeah. Have you gone the vegan route?
Oh, I did it last year. I did about 7-8 months, yeah, but I've just ended up losing too much weight. So I'm just trying to eat what I can now, yeah.
It's like Peter on Max and Paddy when someone says, I don't think I could be a vegan, and Peter Kay says, man can't live on chips alone. It's a classic line.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, guys. Thanks for that, and good luck in the future. And we'll catch up soon when all this everything's back to some normality.